Last April was the worst time for me. I was living with a feeling I can't even describe. I still can't. I have to now, obviously. But if I was to choose one word, it would be something like overwhelm. I remember lying in bed one morning and I was overwhelmed because I was trying to remember what feeling happy felt like. And I couldn't remember. And I thought there's no point in living if I can't actually remember how to be happy anymore. I'd had suicidal thoughts before, as everyone who suffers from depression surely does. That morning when I lay in bed, depression had completely taken over my thoughts. It manipulated and it had lied its way into making me think that ending my own life wasn't just best for me, but actually it would be best for everybody. Because that is what depression does. It overpowers you. It takes the wheel and it steers you away from everyone and everything you love. And it takes you down a dark tunnel. And when you're in that tunnel, it hugs you and it tells you that this is where you're supposed to belong. I called my mum that morning, but it wasn't because I needed help. I thought I was beyond help. I called her because I thought that day I was going to take my own life, and I called her to hear her voice one last time. I went to my GP the next day, and I did something I thought I'd never do. I told someone I didn't know what was going on inside my own head. And after a little conversation about depression, he asked me a question I couldn't believe I hadn't asked myself. He said, "Do you actually want to die, or do you just not want to feel like this anymore?" And I thought, what an important distinction to make, because when you're in that fog, you can't ask yourself questions like that.
Jim Carrey was a less intentional character, right? Because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character, so it's, I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern, and then at a certain point you go like, okay, well, that's great, but it's like the one thing, like people talk about depression all the time. The difference between depression and sadness is just, from happenstance, whatever happened or didn't happen for you, or, grief or whatever it is. And depression is your body saying, fuck you, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me, right. And so a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His name is Jeff Foster, and his take on it is that they should change, you should think of the word of depressed as deep rest. Mm-hmm. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. Mm-hmm. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play. Right. The great and powerful Oz.
In the life that only I see, who I am, who I really am, is someone who struggles intensely with depression. I have for the last 6 years of my life, and I continue to every day. Now, for someone who has never experienced depression or doesn't really know what that means, that might surprise them to hear, because there's a pretty popular misconception that depression is just being sad when something in your life goes wrong. When you break up with your girlfriend, when you lose a loved one, when you don't get the job you wanted. But that's sadness, that's a natural thing, that's a natural human emotion. Real depression isn't being sad when something in your life goes wrong. Real depression is being sad when everything in your life is going right. That's real depression, and that's what I suffer from. And to be totally honest, that's hard for me to stand up here and say. It's hard for me to talk about. And it seems to be hard for everyone to talk about it, so much so that no one's talking about it. And no one's talking about depression, but we need to be, because right now it's a massive problem. It's a massive problem. But we don't see it on social media, right? We don't see it on Facebook, we don't see it on Twitter, we don't see it on the news, because it's not happy, it's not fun, it's not light. And so because we don't see it, we don't see the severity of it. But the severity of it, the seriousness of it is this. Every 30 seconds, somewhere, someone in the world takes their own life because of depression. And it might be 2 blocks away, it might be 2 countries away, it might be 2 continents away, but it's happening, and it's happening every single day. And we have a tendency as a society to look at that and go, so what? so what? We look at that and we go, that's your problem, that's their problem.
I felt like I had this black cloud hanging constantly over my head, and it's just a feeling that stays with you and you can't seem to get away from it at all, and you feel completely alone.
I felt like this was going to be it forever.
I felt as though I'd never reach any of my ambitions or my goals.
I felt like I was in my own bubble, hearing muffled voices of people around me.
When I had my first proper mental breakdown, and I decided to run away from home.
I felt like the world would be better off without me.
My mental health problem means that I go through many highs and lows which I struggle to control.
Sometimes I just want to hide away.
I feel that I have to make everyone else happy, and every day is a struggle, but I just remind myself that I'm strong.
My mental health problem means that sometimes the world can be a very scary, very dangerous and very dark place.
Everyday tasks can become the most mammoth missions that seem like you're never going to be able to do them.
My mental health problem means that life is hard.
The hardest thing about having a mental health problem is people not realising that there's something wrong with you and that you can be really ill even if you look absolutely fine. I think especially having an eating disorder, people assume that you're going to look a certain way or be a certain size or a shape, or they imagine certain stereotypes that aren't necessarily true.
Like the social, and in my case like the cultural stigma associated with it.
If I'm having a bad day, no matter how small it is, it feels like the whole world's crashing in on me and things just keep getting worse.
Just trying to get the people around me to understand what I'm going through when they haven't gone through something like me is probably the hardest thing.
Social situations in particular can be really difficult. I sometimes can't commit to what we'd call sort of normal everyday activities.
The word schizo, I think it has a lot of stigma attached to it. I really don't like it.
What really reassured me was knowing that there are so many other people out there who've got the same diagnosis as me and that I'm not alone.
Having my 2 rescue dogs to look after and to take care of, because I know that they need me around and they're always happy to see me, so no matter how bad my day is or how awful everything seems to be, I know that they need me and they always make me smile.
Having such a great network of friends, family and people who are out there who can help.
I'd look at how far I've come and everything that I'd gone through and realise that I am still standing.
It really helps even my friends treat me the way that he did 6 years ago before this all started. I was that happy, laid-back person, and that's the person that I want to be and aspire to be again.
It really helps me when people just treat me normally.
I'd like people to treat me like you would your own mother, I guess. I think that's a good way to treat people.
I don't want people to tiptoe around me.
I would like people to treat me like any other normal person, but also just to be a bit more sensitive around me, not to be stigmatised, depression and everything, and telling me to cheer up and everything.
I wish I'd known how much I was going to grow and learn as I grew up and grew older. I wish I'd known how much therapy was going to help me and how much I was going to gain from that. And I wish I'd known that it was possible to meet people who would love me for all of me, including my mental illness.
That I didn't have to feel so alone, and that there was a lot of support out there.
That there are people out there and organisations that can help me.
I don't regret having mental health problems because it has made me who I am today.
I wish I'd known just how supportive people can be once you tell them what you're going through.
People are accepting. They're not going to walk down the street and cry, "You mental case." They're not going to, they're not going to do anything like that. Everyone's incredibly understanding. And if they're not, them.
So the best piece of advice I'd have to give would be just getting over that initial fear of coming out to people about your condition, because once you talk about it, it really does help. The best piece of advice I ever got was to just focus on today, because you can't change what's happened in the past, and there's honestly no real way of predicting what's going to happen in the future.
I know it's hard, but be yourself and be brave, and you will recover.
Take each day as it comes, and even if that's too much, break it right down to just 5 minutes at a time. I find that really helps.
Just ask for help, just make that step and ask for anybody, and they will be supportive for you.
Everybody has scars. Some people have them in the mind, and some people have them on legs, like I do.
Just basically be yourself. That's
that's simple enough and like, it might be a bit cliche, but I guess it's true.
It's okay to be mental, and that most people are, just not in the same way as you, but there are ways to get help.
Even if you think that things can't get better, that you've tried so many times and you've fed up and you've had enough of trying, things really can, and you can get better and you can recover. So don't give up on yourself.